What happens when a Hollywood icon dares to go toe-to-toe with the internet and loses control of the narrative? This is no ordinary celebrity legal drama. This is Blake Lively versus the creators, and this time the creators aren't backing down. After her legal team launched an unprecedented wave of subpoenas targeting over 20 content creators, demanding everything from private bank records to DMs and unpublished commentary. The response was swift, strategic, and explosive. From YouTube to TikTok X to Substack, creators across the digital landscape are calling out. What they say is a blatant attempt to silence critical voices through legal intimidation. And they're not just fighting back online, they're fighting back in court, filing motions, organizing legal defense funds, gaining support from digital rights groups and First Amendment watchdogs, and rallying millions under the banner of one simple idea: you don't get to sue your way out of public scrutiny. In this video, we're diving deep into the moment that turned a celebrity lawsuit into a cultural battleground. You'll hear the full timeline of Blake's legal offensive, the creators she targeted, the judges' controversial responses, and the massive backlash that followed. From courtroom transcripts to viral protest clips, leaked internal emails to coalition live streams, this is the story of how creators became the frontline defenders of digital free speech. If you thought this was just another tabloid feud, think again. Because what's unfolding right now could redefine what creators are allowed to say and what celebrities can do to stop them. Let's break it all down. The moment Blake Lively and her legal team decided to subpoena content creators, everything changed. What was once a slow-burning legal drama suddenly exploded into an all-out media war, a war where creators are no longer just commentators but combatants, and they're not staying quiet, not anymore. This isn't just about defamation claims, this isn't just about leaked texts. This has now turned into a First Amendment firestorm. Because once creators realized they were being dragged into a celebrity court battle for simply covering a public lawsuit, the gloves came off. The subpoenas started arriving quietly. First, it was Paris Hilton, the longtime celebrity blogger, who many thought had long left the spotlight. Then Candace Owens, a lightning rod for controversy, yes, but even she was stunned by the breadth of the legal request. Then came Andy Signore, known for his blunt takes and live breakdowns of court transcripts. All of them and at least 17 more creators on X, YouTube, and TikTok received demands for their bank records, DMs, unpublished footage, and even their opinions. The backlash was immediate. Andy Signore didn't just respond, he went live. And what followed was a nearly hour-long takedown of Blake Lively's legal strategy. He exposed the wording in the subpoena. He showed where her team seemed to imply that mere commentary could be construed as aiding someone in a defamation claim. And he didn't stop there. He questioned the judge's role in allowing such a sweeping subpoena in the first place, calling it chilling, dangerous, and a precedent no one in media should accept. On TikTok, creators began posting side-by-side comparisons. One video showing them simply reading from court filings, another showing Lively's lawyer claiming they were spreading harmful narrative constructions. The absurdity wasn't lost on anyone. Legal experts started weighing in, first quietly, then loudly. This has gone way too far, one First Amendment scholar said on CNN. Subpoenaing commentary because you don't like how someone's talking about your client, that's not justice. That's intimidation. Blake's lawyer, the now notorious Daniel Arstanen, seemed unfazed. In fact, he doubled down. We have every right to know who is funding, aiding, or benefiting from targeted, coordinated attacks, he told Variety in a written statement. That one-line, funding, aiding, or benefiting, set the internet ablaze. Was he accusing creators of being part of a conspiracy? Was he implying that simply getting views on a viral video counted as benefiting from a public lawsuit? Content creators weren't just offended, they were furious. Because what Stanton didn't seem to realize is that in today's landscape, creators are organized. They collaborate, they go live together, and most importantly, they protect each other. When one gets hit, the rest rally, and rally they did. A new tag started trending, #creators not criminals. It started as a whisper on X and Threads, but within 48 hours it had 100,000 mentions. Then came the coalition. Yes, a real structured legal defense fund built by creators for creators to push back on what they're calling targeted legal harassment. Over 40 creators joined in the first weekend. And this isn't some vague crowdfunding dream. According to internal documents shared anonymously with journalists, at least 7 digital rights organizations and 3 law firms have already expressed interest in supporting the fund. Blake Lively's name, once a darling of red carpets and late-night charm, is now the face of something creators believe is bigger than defamation. It's about narrative control, it's about power, it's about whether celebrities can use courts to intimidate dissent. But this story doesn't end with subpoenas, it only begins there. Because what happened next in open court only fanned the flames further. Daniel Orstanden filed a motion to compel, asking the judge to force the creators to comply. The motion listed creators by username. That's right, legal documents naming people by their YouTube handles, TikTok tags, and even X threads. It read less like a legal brief and more like a social media takedown list. One excerpt even quoted a YouTuber saying, "This whole thing stinks, that's all." That one sentence, captured mid-live stream, was now being used in a courtroom as evidence of malicious framing. Even some journalists, ones previously sympathetic to Blake's legal frustrations, were stunned. The New York Times opinion section published a rare editorial titled "The Thin Line Between Accountability and Intimidation." Though it never mentioned Blake by name, the piece was clearly a reaction to the growing controversy around subpoenaing creators. The editorial warned if courts become weapons to silence criticism, especially from independent voices, then the public square becomes a courtroom, and that's a loss for everyone. That sentiment is growing. Creators aren't backing down, in fact, they're ramping up. Multiple live streams have now been turned into mini investigative deep dives. One TikToker even pulled up every past interview of Blake Lively discussing public image narrative and media manipulation. Another stitched together moments from red carpet appearances and podcast interviews that painted a very different picture of Blake's supposed media innocence. What they're showing is not gossip. It's an organized rebuttal, creators methodically debunking the idea that their commentary is targeted harassment. Instead, they're building a counter-narrative that Blake Lively, her legal team, and maybe even this judge are trying to police free expression under the guise of reputation protection. And for every court filing her team submits, creators are now submitting counter-content. Every motion gets dissected on live stream, every quote gets fact-checked, every accusation gets archived, analyzed, and if they see fit, exposed. The creators aren't scared, they're motivated. One said it best in a viral tweet, "You picked a fight with the wrong internet." And judging by what's coming next, depositions, court hearings, maybe even contempt motions, this battle is only going to escalate, because creators aren't just responding anymore. They're going on the offensive. The moment creators realized they were being watched, something shifted. What started as frustration quickly turned into a collective wave of resistance. No one was willing to sit by while powerful figures used courtroom tactics to silence online voices. This wasn't just commentary anymore, it was personal. NBC Ignore's live stream had set the tone, but it was the response from dozens of mid-tier and micro creators that truly shocked Blake Lively's team. These weren't major celebrities or corporate-backed influencers. These were real people, lawyers with TikTok channels, media analysts on YouTube, entertainment reporters on Substack, and they were all now laser-focused on Blake's case. Her move to subpoena them had triggered the very thing she likely wanted to avoid, a full-blown digital rebellion. One creator, known online as the Culture Docket, released a video titled "Blake Lively's Lawyer Messed with the Wrong Platform," and it exploded. Within 24 hours, the video had nearly 500,000 views. Why? Because it wasn't just drama, it was documentation. The creator showed side-by-side legal filings, explained why the subpoenas were overbroad, and provided historical context about similar failed attempts by celebrities to muzzle commentary. Even lawyers began to chime in, not just on news segments, but directly on TikTok and threads. "This is a content creator's worst nightmare," said one entertainment attorney in a now viral video. "If this becomes the norm, then anyone commenting on a legal matter involving a public figure could be dragged into court simply for doing their job, or worse, for expressing a protected opinion." Suddenly, the issue wasn't about Blake Lively's celebrity, it was about legal overreach. And more importantly, it was about precedent. The creator backlash wasn't just loud, it was strategic. One group, including digital rights activists and entertainment lawyers, began publishing Know Your Rights guides, specifically tailored for creators under legal threat. They walked through how to respond to subpoenas, how to file motions to quash, and how to connect with pro bono legal networks. The guides went viral in Discord servers and Telegram groups, where creators collaborate behind the scenes. Another creator who had been threatened with a subpoena went on a podcast and revealed she had been advised to scrub her videos, not because they were defamatory, but because the cost of a legal battle would be too much to handle alone. That interview struck a nerve. Even people outside the content world started asking, why should a YouTuber need a lawyer just for covering public news? The answer, of course, is power. Blake Lively's team was using legal muscle to shift the narrative. But what they didn't anticipate was that the internet had evolved. This wasn't 2010 when bloggers worked alone in silos. This is 2025. Today's creators operate like newsrooms, they share sources, they fact-check in real time. And when one of them is threatened, the rest amplify the story. That amplification reached a fever pitch when the Washington Post ran a digital media expose headlined from commentary to Courtroom, the new frontline in celebrity PR. The piece didn't hold back. It cited creators who had been subpoenaed and raised questions about whether Lively's team was attempting to use discovery laws to force the unmasking of critics and potentially intimidate witnesses in a parallel lawsuit filed by Justin Baldoni. That allegation that the subpoenas were not just about content, but about controlling the witness pool set off a firestorm of its own. Now multiple creators are alleging that they have received quiet DMs from former Wayfair employees, fans, and even background sources connected to the Baldoni Lively drama, people who wanted to speak out but are now afraid that anything they say might be pulled into a deposition or court filing. One creator known for covering corporate lawsuits and HR scandals said plainly, "We are now the press. And if this continues, they're turning the press into targets." And here's where things took an even darker turn. Blake's team didn't just go after creators in open court. They allegedly filed a sealed motion asking the judge to impose temporary restrictions on future commentary from creators being subpoenaed. A move described by digital rights attorneys as shockingly aggressive and potentially unconstitutional. The judge has not ruled on the motion yet, but the response has been furious. Legal watchdogs are now watching this case closely. One organization, the Online Speech Alliance, has issued a statement demanding transparency, asking for the sealed filings to be opened so that the public can evaluate the extent to which procedural law is being used to chill protected speech. Creators are now documenting everything, every court appearance, every document filed, every word said, because they know the stakes. This is no longer about views or clout, it's about the future of online journalism and commentary. Some creators are now saying they've been contacted by investigative journalists from legacy media outlets who want to cover the creators versus Blake Lively battle from the ground up. What started as a civil dispute over reputation has now become a case study in how digital media fights back. One creator said it best, "If they want to make an example out of us, they're going to have to try a lot harder. We're not afraid, we're documenting everything. And we'll take it all the way to the Supreme Court if we have to," and that may not be hyperbole. Because what comes next could truly alter the legal relationship between content creators and the powerful people they report on. Blake Lively may have opened a legal door, but the internet just turned it into a war room. And the judge, some creators are starting to speak up about that too. Because silence from the bench, especially while creators are under fire, is starting to look like complicity, as the legal drama surrounding Blake Lively's team and their aggressive targeting of content creators intensified. Something even more unpredictable began to unfold. The public turned on Blake. What had once been a relatively quiet legal back and forth escalated into a cultural moment, a full-blown digital flashpoint, and Blake wasn't winning. Public opinion, especially online, is notoriously fickle, but when it shifts, it does so like a tsunami. And in this case, the shift wasn't subtle. It was loud, it was viral, and it was global. The hashtag Blake silences voices hit over 1 million posts in under 48 hours. And these weren't just angry fans or fringe accounts. Verified creators, digital rights organizations, former entertainment journalists, and even celebrity gossip accounts with millions of followers were reposting clips, court quotes, and reaction videos criticizing what they called a PR disaster in motion. One viral TikTok broke down the entire timeline, from the first content creator subpoena to the legal threats to the sealed filings. The creator, a former journalist turned analyst, ended her video with the chilling line, "She's not just trying to control the story, she's trying to control who gets to tell it." That video alone garnered over 9 million views and ignited a firestorm of discourse across multiple platforms. Suddenly everyone was talking not about whether Blake was right or wrong in her legal claims, but about whether she had weaponized the court. It didn't help that while creators were mounting public defenses, Blake Lively remained publicly silent. No Instagram statements, no interviews, no live appearances, nothing. And in the vacuum of her silence, the creators' voices became the only narrative available. That vacuum was filled by clips of legal experts warning that this case was spiraling. It was filled with reposts of creators breaking down court documents and showing exactly where Lively's lawyers appeared to ask for things like unpublished footage, creator DMs, and even metadata from private live streams. It was filled with dramatic soundbites from digital rights attorneys saying things like, "If this was a politician doing this to reporters, it would be a constitutional crisis." Creators weren't just reacting anymore, they were organizing. And they were winning the public narrative war. Then came the international wave. A British YouTuber known as Truthlighted with nearly 2 million subscribers posted a video titled, "Why I'm Refusing Blake Lively's Subpoena," and it immediately trended across multiple platforms. In the video, he claimed he'd received legal correspondence from Blake's team after covering the case in a viral live stream. But instead of backing down, he issued a challenge. "I don't live in the US. I didn't defame anyone. I reported on public documents. And if Blake Lively thinks she can drag the whole world's commentary into her legal mess, she better be ready for what comes next." The clip was reposted by dozens of free speech groups, triggering debates about jurisdictional overreach. Was Blake's team attempting to silence international voices? If so, they might have inadvertently sparked something even bigger than a US-based scandal. This moment marked a dangerous turning point because it was no longer just about a few American creators. It had now become a global free speech crisis, with people from Canada, the UK, Australia, and South Africa weighing in, some of whom had never even covered Blake Lively before, but were now speaking up out of principle. And just when it seemed the backlash couldn't get any more intense, a leaked email thread from a well-known entertainment lawyer began circulating. In the email, which has yet to be verified but was posted by multiple creators and referenced by online media outlets, a senior legal strategist allegedly expressed concern that Blake's team had grossly underestimated the digital landscape, and that the subpoenas could be seen as reckless and unwise, especially when directed at unaffiliated creators. The implications, even within legal circles, people were starting to question the entire strategy. Blake Lively's lawyer, Daniel Arstanen, was no longer just the lead counsel on a defamation case. He was becoming a public villain. And the more he pushed in court, the more content creators dissected every sentence he filed. One moment that added fuel to the fire came during a public hearing, when Stanton referred to content creators as unregulated narrative drivers who amplify harm for profit. The courtroom transcript was picked up by multiple YouTubers who reposted the clip with bold overlays, "unregulated narrative drivers." The term became a meme. T-shirts were printed, TikTok remixes were made. A subreddit dedicated to the case even posted an ongoing tally of absurd courtroom buzzwords used by Blake's legal team. By this point, the judge in the case was facing mounting pressure too. Legal journalists began questioning the court's approach. Why hadn't more protections been put in place for third-party speakers? Why weren't these subpoenas being more rigorously scrutinized? And was the court truly neutral, or was it enabling a celebrity strategy meant to chill free speech? Some content creators took the bold step of filing motions to quash legal filings, demanding the court reject Blake's subpoenas on grounds of free speech and lack of relevance. Several of these motions were written with help from digital civil liberties groups, and as these documents made their way into public dockets, they too became viral content, with creators posting breakdowns, quotes, and even legal commentary, videos that rivaled traditional news networks in terms of clarity and reach. And here's where the creators flipped the narrative completely. Instead of just reacting, they went investigative. A group of 5 content creators launched a collaborative docuseries pooling resources to research how often celebrities weaponize defamation suits, who their lawyers are, and which judges have granted overly broad subpoenas in the past. The first episode was titled "Blake Lively vs. the Internet, a Case Study in Control," and it blew up across platforms, not just for its insight, but for its ambition. It wasn't just a video, it was a mission. At this point, the public was fully engaged, and Blake's silence was doing more harm than good. Entertainment PR insiders even told one outlet that there were emergency meetings happening behind the scenes, with some advisors urging Blake to issue a statement or walk back her legal strategy, anything to calm the outrage. But others within her team apparently insisted on standing firm, believing that the public would eventually move on. But the internet didn't move on. It doubled down. Creators kept producing, legal groups kept watching, public figures including comedians, podcast hosts, and former Hollywood insiders started to openly side with the creators, framing the subpoenas as the death knell for celebrity PR as we know it. Because if this case continues, if Blake Lively's team wins the right to dig through creators' bank records, messages, and commentary, then a line will be crossed that may never be undone. And now the internet is watching every move the judge makes. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere had shifted from routine litigation to high-stakes scrutiny. What was once a relatively private battle between a celebrity, her legal team, and content creators had now turned into a constitutional flashpoint. And for the first time since this controversy began, the judge in Blake Lively's case found himself squarely in the public spotlight. The judge, known for his experience in civil litigation but relatively low media profile, had maintained a calm procedural tone throughout the early hearings. But as motions to quash began pouring in from content creators, and as public pressure from media watchdogs and digital rights organizations grew louder, the court's neutrality was being questioned in ways few could have anticipated. To be clear, judges rarely welcome public commentary on active cases, especially ones involving celebrities. But in this case, the commentary wasn't just speculation. It was rooted in direct legal filings, transcripts, and live-streamed reactions. Everything was public, everything was documented. And the internet wasn't just watching, it was analyzing. In one particularly intense hearing, two content creators represented by independent counsel appeared in court not as defendants but as third-party movements. They were not accused of defamation, they were not being sued, but their videos were cited in Blake Lively's team's court file.